seconds. Welcome to the nonStatic podcast, where we explore how to keep moving forward when the motivation feels distant. Here, we dive into finding peace and fulfillment in a busy world, discovering how to embrace life's opportunities to live with purpose and joy. You guys know us by now. I'm John. This is Dr. Josh. We're bros. We're in business together, and we started this podcast just to kind of share. Yep. Mostly what's on your mind.
Sure.
And then I kind of bounce some stuff off of you and have a decent time doing it, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
At least we pretend we do.
Yeah. So right now, this is December 30th. Today's the 30th, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but this is going to be going out on January 2nd, I believe.
The new year.
So Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
What are you doing for New Year's? Anything much?
John, I'm doing absolutely nothing.
That sounds kind of nice,
Yeah,
actually.
I'm doing nothing.
I wouldn't mind that. I think I might do the same thing too. Are you gonna be staying up to ring in the new year with your boys?
I usually end up staying up just to hang out with my kids, but other than that, it's another day.
What do you normally do for New Year's? Much of anything, or just like, yep, there's the ball dropping and there it is?
I don't really try. I try not to get too. I don't want to say excited about New Year's, but I try not to get too over the top with things. It's just a time to kind of celebrate, the accomplishment of a year and the onset of a new one. So it's another trip around the sun. But I always try to put things in context. It's fun, but I don't get. It's been a long time since I've gone overboard to like a New Year's Eve party.
What's the craziest thing you've done for New Year's, if anything? Like, have you ever done anything like, wow, that was actually a lot of fun, that was unique?
I think the one that strikes me is a long time ago. Got together with a whole bunch of friends. Ended up making our way to the Mall of America, and I think we ended up seeing The Lord of the Rings for that one on New Year's Eve. I think it was showing at that time of year.
That's cool.
It was just kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
We did, and then hung out with friends. So nothing too
exciting.
Over the top. Yeah. Yep.
Is that when they had the what do they call it? The Starlight Bowling or something? There was like a really cool bowling alley there where it was all just, black lights and all that stuff. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, back when malls were a thing.
They're kind of dying.
Malls are kind of dying.
They really are. Mall of America is still hanging out.
It's
still going strong. Like I told you before, I'm hosting a foreign exchange student, and I had the opportunity to take her and 3 other exchange students to the Mall of America on Friday. And when I picked them up, it was just so cool to hear their stories about just hear they're like, oh my, there's just so much.
Yeah.
There's just so much to do. It was a really cool experience for them, and might end up taking them again so they can enjoy Nickelodeon universe.
Yes.
For the day there too, and not worry about shopping, just going out and having fun and riding all the rides. I think it's great. It's a cool place. I hope it never really dies out, but you never know.
Yeah,
you never know. I mean, it's kind of a worldwide attraction, so I think it's probably going to be there to stay.
I think the Mall of America will be just fine. Little smaller malls, maybe you'll see a change in those over time.
So being in Minnesota, it's a good place to be if you want to do a lot of shopping.
If you want to do a lot of shopping in a mall.
Yeah, shop till you drop. The craziest thing I've done for New Year's was, had to have been like 15 some years ago. One of my good friends was living in Connecticut at the time, and he invited us over for New Year's, and like, we'll go to New York City for New Year's. Like that is like the capital of the world for New Year's festivities. We didn't go to the ball drop or anything like that. I didn't want to. And at the time, it was like 20 below wind chill.
Jeez. On
New Year's Eve. So I mean,
sounds like a great time.
Well, we did the club style, and we did party style because we're just fresh out of college.
Sure.
We weren't married or anything like that. So we went to we bought these tickets to some club. I don't even remember what club it was. Super exclusive VIP. It was like $300 a ticket, something stupid just to get into a nightclub. And, free drinks, free all this stuff. And, everyone's going to get a champagne to toast and to ring in the new year. I swear that when we got there was probably at least double the allowable capacity for that club. You literally could not move.
Wow.
There had to have been like 3,000 people in a room that was probably only big enough for maybe 1,200 people. So it was a cool experience.
Claustrophobia.
Very claustrophobic. I really actually hated it.
Yeah,
because
sure
we couldn't dance, couldn't talk to anybody because it was so loud.
But you were there.
But I was there, dang it. I was there. And so immediately after, we actually left before, I think we left before the ball before actually ringing the New Year, because at that time the bars were like, they cut off everyone drinking because no one was tipping. Well, it was all inclusive. So like, oh, this is dumb. I'm like, I'm not going to pay $30 for a drink. I mean, I already paid for my VIP ticket.
Sure.
But anyways, so we left and we walked to New York Times Square. And I think we got there probably about 1:45 in the morning. It was a ghost town. And let me tell you, it was the weirdest. If you've never been to New York Times Square, right after New Year's, it's kind of a sight to behold. The square is completely covered in garbage, just trash, and there's still confetti floating down from the tops of the buildings, and then there was so much garbage, Josh, that there were these big excavators that were coming in to scooping up all the garbage off of the streets, and it was like 20 below wind chill. I'm like, this is like, how could you have so many people out there watching this when it was so cold? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I saw an article that there's apparently an Applebee's in Times Square, and they are offering meals. And hopefully I'm getting this accurate. They're offering meals to people that want to sit with a view of the ball dropping this year, for $720 at Applebee's, which at face value it sounds outrageous. But then I'm like,
that's
wait a minute,
fair price to pay.
Like, wait a minute. I guess if you really want to see the ball drop at Times Square, that's actually not that bad of a deal.
And be comfortable too.
Granted, $720 is a lot to cough up for a meal, but especially for an Applebee's meal. But the front row seat, maybe for some people would find it valuable. I
know some of the hotels there. I mean, they are charging a lot, like somewhere upwards of like almost $8,000 just to reserve a room so you can see the ball.
Well,
I guess if people like it,
go
for it. And if you have that kind of prosperity, then go for it.
I always found the ball drop a little anticlimactic.
There it falls on. I think maybe it's because we didn't really grow up with it. We didn't really grow up with it being that big of a deal. Yeah. And so I think it's just how whatever your culture is, I guess.
So have you ever set New Year's goals?
I have set New Year's goals, but I stopped.
You mean you set them and you stopped trying to achieve them, or you stopped setting New Year's goals?
I stopped setting New Year's goals.
Okay.
I still set goals, and I usually fail. I usually fail to reach probably 99% of my goals because I do set them pretty high. And the reason why I do that is because if I overshoot my goal, if I set my goals like unrealistically high, at least a little bit, like it's going to take a lot of work, I'll probably end up where I want to be anyways.
Yeah. Well, goals should make you uncomfortable to a degree.
Correct. Yeah.
You shouldn't set them too ridiculously high that they're possible to achieve, though.
Oh, right, like yeah, just like a little bit, like definitely out of reach. Like I know I can hit here, but I don't know if I can get there. And I still usually set my goals to I don't know if I can hit there because then I'll always hit.
True. There's a fine line between setting a goal, like for example, one of my goals may be to improve my golf game, which needs a lot of improvement. And so, but if I set my goal to improve my golf game to be able to compete with Rory McIlroy, I'm not going to meet that goal. There's no way I'm going to make it. You know what I mean? And that goal structured to that extreme may be discouraging and cause people to not even want to try. Because I know intrinsically I'm never going to compete with Rory McIlroy.
There's a chance.
There is no chance.
Oh, there's no chance?
There's no chance.
All right, okay.
There's no chance.
Yeah. But I stopped.
That'd be called a delusional goal, if I believe
true.
it. There's a difference between goals that are impossible and goals that are delusional. That would fall into the delusional category.
Okay. That's fair. But who's that guy who just doesn't even practice? He's just, smokes like a chimney, drinks all the time when he's golfing, and he's on the PGA Tour. Like this guy.
Oh, John Daly.
Is it? No, not John Daly.
No.
somebody else, someone who's actively in the PGA Tour. It's hilarious. I mean, this guy's like, he doesn't care. He's like, I'm just here to golf and have fun and wins all kinds of money. Just doing like he truly doesn't. There was a special on Netflix about the the life of PGA golfers, and he was one of them. And it was just hilarious. Like this guy's like, he doesn't care. Everyone else on the series is like, oh, we're trying so hard, like working out 3 times a day, hitting 2,000 golf balls, and this guy shows up with some scratched up, scuffed up clubs. And
so he obviously has a fair amount of natural
ability. He's naturally gifted. Yeah. But to get back to your point about me not setting New Year's goals is because I either intentionally set goals before and start working on them before, or like maybe I wait a few days after the first, because I don't like. I found that if I set a goal for like, starting January 1st, I'm going to do this every day, or this is my goal, I'm going to procrastinate, because if I already know, I'm going to procrastinate until the first. You know what I'm saying? Because like I can't start it beforehand. And then I don't want to start the habit or the new thing my goal. I don't want it to start out by procrastination. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
And then I don't want to set it if I'm gonna. I also don't want to. Hopefully, this might be kind of. Maybe I'm just not saying it right. I don't want it to be tied to that one specific holiday or event.
You're kind of fighting popular culture is what
you're
doing. You're being a little bit of a rebel, I suppose.
Yeah.
You don't want to set goals because everybody else
I'm not a New Year's resolutionist kind of a guy. Yeah.
But I think why New Year's is important for a lot of us is it's a recognition that we've been a lot of places over the past 365 days. And it's also recognition that we have the opportunity to move ahead in a positive way regardless of what happened in the past. And so I think that's really what it's about for a lot of people. And goal, you can start setting new goals anytime, right? You don't need the first of the year. I think the new year is symbolic, meaning, moved on from the past and now I'm moving forward.
Wipe the slate completely clean.
Yep. Right. What I would remind people, this is what I always remind people when they're making goals is really we can do anything. We can do anything, but we can't do everything.
Right.
So it's important to keep that in mind with your goals it's important to have goals that challenge you, but it's also important not to completely overwhelm yourself with so many goals. It's impossible to achieve.
Then I can see that, because I used to have a ton of goals. All the time. I would write my affirmations down every day, like what my goals are, and really it would end up being like a full page, single space of all my goals and all my affirmations, which took a lot of work just to write down, because I found like when I write things down, it helps me focus on them better. It helps keep it front of mind, and it's just for me. I find it's a good exercise. But my lists keep on getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, and then I get discouraged with it because I'm like, this takes so much time just to write this down, and then I just stop.
Yeah,
I think the same thing happens with too many goals. Do you think there's like a sweet spot in terms of numbers of goals that somebody would want to set?
I look at goals. Everybody has their own ideas about what goals are, but my general framework is I think goals fall into kind of 2 broad categories. At least is the way I do it. There's achievement-related goals, those are the popular goals, like I'm going to achieve such and such a thing within the next 6 months to a year. That's one kind of goal. The other goal that I think is important, that's not as sexy, so to speak, is what I call a maintenance goal. And that is setting goals that enable you to maintain where you're at. Maybe you've worked really hard over the past year in developing a certain area of your professional abilities, for example. But as we've found, human nature is such that if we don't attend to things that we've accomplished or that we have over time, they're going to become stagnant. For example, it's the analogy I've used is someone that plants a garden. Someone may have a goal of planting a garden in the spring, right? And they want to plant this big garden, have it ready and going. But say they've accomplished that goal by June 1st. Well, now what do?
Gotta
Well,
maintain
you've
that
got to
garden.
maintain the
Yeah.
garden over the course of the summer in order
Right.
to have the end result, which is harvesting whatever it is that you're growing.
Right.
But our lives are the same way. You know, we strive to achieve these goals, but it's also important to maintain certain areas of our lives. And
I
not
can
forget about
definitely
them.
I can definitely speak to that because I had achieved some goals in terms of my physical fitness and
Mhm.
and weight and all that stuff, and life got busy, and I took a day off,
Yep.
took 2 days off,
Right.
rolled into 3. I didn't, and I could have very easily maintained my fitness level by choosing to work out even 2-3 times a
Yeah.
week, like half an hour even, just to keep the muscles going, not doing anything new, just to
Yeah.
keep the status quo. And I chose not to do that, and now a year later I'm like I don't have a whole lot of
Sure.
I still have muscle mass, but not a
Yeah.
whole lot. And it's going to take a lot of work for me to get back to where I was before,
Sure.
if that's even possible.
But
You know,
the other way you can look at it is like, let's look at relationships,
Yeah.
right? Those of us that are married or in long-term committed relationships, it's easy to fall into a pattern of complacency.
yeah,
And that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to constantly have a goal to achieve something in our marriages or relationships. But a lot of times it's helpful to have a goal of, hey, I'm just going to make sure that I maintain my relationships, so to speak.
Right.
We hear a lot of times when you get into couples counseling and whatnot, is it's not that anything bad happened or anything wrong is happening. It's just that the two people involved in the relationship stop putting in all the effort. So at least for me, when I set goals for my relationships, whether it's with my spouse or with my kids, it's not necessarily that I'm bringing my relationships to a whole new level, but it's maintaining them and taking the time to tend to them.
right,
We all have experiences in which we were best friends with someone, for example, or had really close relationships with individuals, and then over time they just kind of disappeared, or the relationship went away. It's not that anything drastic happens. In some cases, something drastic happens. But in most cases, it's just a slow burn, a slowly drifting apart. So an example of a maintenance goal is just that you're going to connect with your spouse intentionally for 10 minutes a day. That's nothing, is that anything outrageous? Nah, not really. But it's
No.
just taking time to maintain the relationship because
It
it's
makes a
important to you.
huge difference, though.
Yeah.
Because the undivided attention is like, especially with us right now. My wife and I'm working, and she's raising the kids, and but as soon as I get home, we have dinner together, and then our lives are focused on the kids still
Right.
until they're in bed. And once the kids are in bed, then we're exhausted, and I just want to watch a show or do my own thing,
Yeah.
and she wants to watch a show and do her own thing. Like, why couldn't we watch a show together? Or why couldn't we just? Honestly, most of the time lately, I've just kind of do the whole surfing thing. Like, there's literally nothing to watch on any of the, like, really, there's literally
There's
nothing to watch.
when there's so much to watch.
That
nowadays.
just
Yeah.
means that I just don't have any desire to do that,
Yeah.
and I should probably do something that's actually important, like nurturing the relationship with my wife or my kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely see that. I've sadly, a lot of my friends from college and high school and growing up, we just grew apart just because we didn't maintain our relationships. I mean, one example is I still, they're still great friends. I can just call them, pick
Yeah.
up the phone and call them, and we'll just pick up where we left off. But like one guy, I reached out to him, gosh, in February. I said, hey, it's been a year. It's been a year since we hung out. This is not okay. We need to change this. You've got a family. I got a family. Let's just get together, have a barbecue, or just throw in some pizzas, let the kids play, and then we'll just us and our spouses will reconnect. And it's now as of this being published, it's January 2nd, and that was the last conversation I had with him.
Well, you still got a little over 2 months to go, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess it's not quite. I guess
Not over
there's
yet.
there's some hope. There's some hope there, but I just don't like that. Life gets busy, and then I just want to, hole up and just kind of. It's almost like it's too much work. But every time I hang out with friends, every time I make that commitment to do something, I'm always glad I did.
Yeah.
So maybe
And that's the way life. That's what life is relationships come and go, and most relationships don't last forever.
Yeah.
as these relationships with our friends, there's nothing abnormal necessarily about that, and we have different seasons in life, and people come and go. But it's important to be intentional about, what do we want our relationships to look like? What do we want our homes to look like?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the most valuable goals aren't necessarily achieving something massive, but it's structuring your goals around, what do you want your life to look like? And when you come home, what do you want your home to look like? What do you want your home environment to be like? What do you want your relationship with your kids and your spouse to be like? And if we can intentionally move towards those things, I think what we'll find is life will be much more fulfilling. We can always work towards achieving status or advancement or obtaining something. Ultimately, though, those are kind of empty if we're not focusing also on what's really important, which is our relationships.
Right. So what do you do if, say, you have a goal set and you're just not feeling it? You're just not feeling it today. What do? Do you say, no, if I do this, do you talk to yourself and give yourself a pep talk? Like, no, if I don't get this rep in.
I think what you're hearing about, what you're tapping into is the motivation piece of our goals.
Motivation doesn't come until after I found that you don't get people wait for motivation before they do things. You don't get motivation until you actually start doing the thing. Then you get motivation.
Yeah. Well, I think
just like
we all get motivated at different times. Usually we get really motivated to do something. Like first of the year, we're motivated to make a change because we want to make a change, and we know there's areas of our life that we think that need improvement, and we want to take steps to make those. Well, we have that motivation at that time, and it's an emotional connection with the goal. The problem was, as we've talked about before, is that our emotions are pretty fickle and they go away. You could wake up one morning and be in a funky, crabby mood, and not follow through on your goals. And that's where it's important when you're I would argue that to maintain motivation or to sustain action toward achieving a goal is you have to connect it with why are you doing it in the first place. And you have to really connect it to your internal sense of who you are. Like, I'm doing this because I find it to be important. And if you find a goal important to you as an individual, and that your reward is intrinsic, meaning the reward for achieving a goal is because you yourself wanted to achieve it, not because somebody else wanted you to, then you're going to be able to follow through on taking the steps to achieve the goal, even when you don't feel like it. We're all going to have those days where we maybe fall off the bandwagon, but it's the internal why that's going to get you to, or that's going to help you move over that hump when you do have a down day. And I would say for those of us that have goals and we've fallen off the bandwagon, my goal is to never miss twice.
Right.
So if I have a day where I'm not working on something that I want to work on, I try to extend some grace to myself.
Right.
But I try very hard to never let that happen 2 days in a row, because at that point that you're practicing failing to follow through. Right. And it's not that I view myself as a failure if I don't reach a goal, but if I don't follow through on a commitment I've made to myself, then that's kind of an attack on my own personal integrity.
It affects yourself personally too, because if you know that you failed on a goal that you set, or that's important to you, I don't know if it's like your sense of self-worth can take a hit, or like your confidence in yourself.
The issue isn't the failure. The issue is, I would say, if you try to achieve a goal and you did all the steps you set out to do and you didn't achieve it, you learn from that. Failing to make a goal isn't the problem. It's the failing to work towards it, if that makes sense. Really what a goal is a promise to yourself. And if you're not able to make a promise to yourself with the commitments that you've made, how are you going to be able to keep your promises to other individuals?
Right. Yeah.
And that's really where we feel a lot of defeat in our goal setting, is if we don't follow through. The reason we get really discouraged by that is because we've essentially broken a promise that we've made to ourselves. and that's when we really struggle with.
And the only person you can feel upset about, the only person you can be disappointed in is yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes sense.
So to bring it home, goals are great. If I encourage people to set goals for their new year, put them in the right context. And goals should be because you as an individual or as we as individuals believe they're important, not because we want to get accolades from others, because that extrinsic goals like that are very difficult to sustain. Where if it's something that's important to you as an individual or us as individuals, those are the goals that are going to keep us grounded.
And I would say to myself too, especially when you don't have that, like you want to do anything but work on that goal that you have set for yourself. That's probably the most important time for you to, like, you know what, I may not do my whole workout session or something, but do something that's applicable to that goal.
Yep.
Just even a little bit. So then you can say, I didn't miss a day, or I at least, maybe not 2 steps forward. Maybe it was like a couple inches forward, and then you can have that. And I would think that would kind of create some motivation too, and that you made that promise to yourself, and you're keeping that promise.
Yep.
To a degree.
And I saw a phrase the other day, and it was all rewards have to be earned. Mm-hmm. And when you think about that, if something's just given to you, that's not really a reward, right?
Right.
A reward, by definition, is something you have earned. But the statement, all rewards have to be earned, you have to put the effort in.
Right.
And to get the reward that you want.
So good to get
and
the
that's where
rewards
discipline
too.
comes in. Is really what you're getting at is, what do you do when a few minutes ago when you said, what do you do when you're not motivated? That's where your character comes in, is the discipline. And that's really what separates high achieving individuals to those that struggle with achievement. It's not they have that much more talent. It's not that they have that much more ability or wherewithal or resources to complete something. It's because they were disciplined when nobody else wanted to.
Right.
In this age of Netflix and Amazon Prime TV, the disciplined people are the ones that can put that aside temporarily.
Right.
To achieve something important.
Or even work on their goal while they're watching something.
True.
True. I mean, it's either you sit on the couch or you stand up and do some squats or jumping jacks or something while you're watching the show.
Well, I watched more TV over the past week than I care to admit. So.
Once in a while is okay. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Just don't make it a habit. Don't make it 2 days in a row.
Right. Never miss twice. Never miss twice.
I think that's. Do you have anything else you want to bring up, Josh?
No, that was it.
That was it?
That's all I got for you.
And one thing I wanted to talk about real quick is, I know you always bring up, you like to talk about things that you're reading or listening to. One book that I've always found that's really helpful for me, I try to read it every January or at least once a year, is a book by John Maxwell, Developing the Leader Within You. It's a wildly popular leadership book. He recently updated, I think it was a couple of years ago, he updated it to 2.0 to modernize it more, because it was written, 25 years ago. And so obviously things change. Things are changing at a much faster pace than I think any of us would care to. Things are just changing so fast.
Yep.
And leadership is no different. We have to change our leadership style. If you are not a leader, but you want to learn how to be in more control of your own life, I highly recommend this book.
It's a good book, yeah.
Really, anything from John Maxwell is just phenomenal. He's very easy read, is very practical, and he's kind of a list guy too.
Yeah.
He's a list guy, and I like that. I'm type A, and I got to have my lists. He talks about his story and how he went from being a pastor from a really tiny church to being really one of the world's foremost leadership trainers. And just phenomenal book. Highly recommend it. We may have a link for you to check it out. If you haven't gotten it, by all means, go ahead and pick it up. You will not be disappointed with that. It's a good read. So, with that, thanks for tuning in to listening to us each week. It's been a lot of fun doing this. We're still getting our feet wet. We're still figuring it out. But I really appreciate you guys joining us in the journey. But if you want to stay connected and dive deeper into finding peace, focus, and fulfillment in your life, sign up for our nonstatic newsletter at nonstatic.org. Also, go ahead and subscribe and share this podcast if you guys found value with it. And I always like to say at the end, if you or someone you know is struggling with mental health or substance use, please reach out to us or a local provider. You are worth whatever it takes for you to get well again. And there are many, many people who are there to help you. If you don't know who to reach out to, go ahead and give us send us a message, and we'll help you direct you to some providers that can work for you.
Yep.
So, anyways, take care. Happy New Year. Keep moving forward, and don't give up on your dreams and goals.
Enjoy the journey.